6 participants.
Oh.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to TNE sharing session. We will wait for a little while longer for more attendees to join us. Yeah, and then we will start the webinar.
Okay. Now people are joining. Welcome, everyone.
Shouldn't Kevin be in the panelist? Oh, okay. Yeah, he's at it. Okay.
Okay, great.
Welcome, Jaden. Welcome. Welcome, Dr. Kevin. Thanks for joining.
Welcome, Dr. Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Hello, hello. Hi, James. Nice to see you. Hi, Joyce. Hi, David.
Hello.
Do you go by Tech? Is that the name?
Yeah, Tech.
Okay. Nice to meet you and welcome.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so we are just waiting for more attendees to join. Maybe we'll start in another few minutes.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
And maybe before we start, could we just go through the program, who will do what when, and whether we're going to do the translations in chunks throughout or save the translations at the end of the program, which either way is fine with me.
Maybe Dr. Kevin, maybe I will intervene for the necessary part. So in the middle of the conversation, and I will, basically I will follow the flow, but basically in the middle. Yeah. So.
Okay. Anytime at all you want to interrupt, just jump in and do whatever translation, but just tell me when to start again, and then
Sure.
We'll from there.
Thanks, Dr. Kevin.
So looking at the program, the first 5 minutes, I will introduce myself. Do you want me to show the video of the? We have a short video of me and Katie introducing the program.
Yeah, it would be great.
I have that here already queued up on my computer, so I can do it as long as I am a host or a co-host. Am I a co-host at this time? Let me just check.
Yeah, I'll just make you the co-host. Yeah.
Okay, good. And then I also have my slides ready for the next section, which I'll go through as quickly as I can.
Yeah.
And then I'll introduce Dennis and Tech, and we'll start our panel discussion.
Yes, it is.
And try to finish all of that by around 2:35 so that we can have time for translation and Q&A, right?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
반갑습니다, 최상호님. Welcome, Mr. Choi Sang-ho. 반갑습니다. So, Joyce, shall we start the session by now?
We'll start now. Yeah.
Okay. Let me share my screen first. 자, 여러분 안녕하세요. 싱가포르 SIM 국가를 초월하는 교육 TNE 세션에 오신 것을 환영합니다. 저는 싱가포르 SIM의 한국 담당자 데이비드 최윤섭이라고 합니다. Hello everyone. Welcome to Transnational Education session with SIM Singapore. My name is David Choi, SIM country representative in Korea. 오늘 세션에는 학생과 학부모 그리고 한국에 거주하고 있는 외국인 학생까지 참석했습니다. 또한 저희 SIM의 동료 교직원분들과 버팔로 대학교의 교수진, 재학생분들도 함께하고 있습니다. 소중한 시간 내주셔서 진심으로 감사드립니다. In today's session, Korean students, parents, and even foreign students residing in Korea are attending today's session. And some of our SIM school colleagues and dearest faculty members and students from University at Buffalo are also joining together now. Once again, thanks indeed for your precious contribution to today's session. 오늘 세션 진행 순서에 관해 간략히 안내 말씀드리겠습니다. 첫 번째로 싱가포르 유학 환경과 SIM에 관한 소개를 한국어로 15분 정도 진행하겠습니다. 그 다음으로 저희 SIM 버팔로 대학교의 교수진과 재학생분들의 패널 세션이 영어로 30에서 35분 정도 진행될 것입니다. 그리고 영어 세션이 종료된 후에 다시 한번 간략하게 제가 한국어로 내용을 좀 정리해 드릴 거고요. 그 다음에 Q&A 세션이 혹시 질문이 있으신 분들에게 제공될 겁니다. 제일 마지막에는 또 희망하시는 분들에게 SIM에 관한 그 개별적인 상담이 진행될 예정입니다. Let me give you a brief guide to the flow of today's sessions. First, I will introduce study environment in Singapore and SIM for about 15 minutes in Korean language. And after that, a panel session with resident director, Dr. Kevin, and students and instructor from the University at Buffalo will be going on in English for 30 to 35 minutes. And after the English panel session is over, a brief summary will be provided again in Korean language. And we might have another Q&A sessions briefly as well. And after all the sessions are done, individual consultation will be provided in separate meeting room. So for those who are more interested in admission qualifications, major courses, and tuition fee and scholarship opportunities, please join the different Zoom meeting room again. 자, 이제 저희 소개 세션을 한국어로 시작하겠습니다. Now let me start the introduction session in Korean language. 저희 싱가포르에 대해서 많은 분들께서 관광지로 알고 계십니다. 또 관광을 통해서 많이 오셨을 텐데요. 사실 이 싱가포르는 전 세계적으로 굉장히 인프라가 선진화되어 있고 또 굉장히 최첨단된 국가 인프라를 가지고 있는 나라입니다. 작지만 강한 나라라고 할 수 있죠. 그래서 글로벌 MNC들 중에서 약 46% 이상의 MNC들이 싱가포르를 아시아의 헤드쿼터로 선택을 해서 설립을 하고 있습니다. 가장 대표적인 그 글로벌 컴퍼니들, 여러분들 잘 알고 계시는 구글, 또 뭐 링크드인, 페이스북, 다이슨, 뭐 HP 이런 글로벌 컴퍼니들의 아시아 헤드쿼터가 저희 싱가포르에 위치를 하고 있습니다. 자, 8천여 개 이상의 그 글로벌 컴퍼니들이 저희 싱가포르에 그 본부를 두고 있어요. 그래서 저희 싱가포르의 환경을 간략히 다시 한번 말씀을 드리면 크게 두 가지로 요약이 됩니다. 하나는 Singapore is a multicultural society. 아주 다문화된 그런 국가 환경, 국제적인 환경을 가지고 있습니다. 또 굉장히 다문화된 환경이다 보니까 multilingual, 싱가포르에서는 전 세계의 말 그대로 전 세계의 언어를 다 경험하실 수 있는 그러한 환경을 제공하고 있습니다. 물론 공용어는 Chinese, 그다음 Malay, Indian, 뭐 Dialect 이런 부분들도 있어요. 영어가 가장 메인 공용어입니다. 자, 저희가 이 싱가포르의 다문화된 환경을 조금 더 핵심적으로 영상으로 한번 또 생생하게 보여드리고요. 그 다음에 저희 SIM에 대해서 좀 자세히 설명을 드리겠습니다. 영상 한번 보실게요. 네, 짧은 영상이었는데요. 바로 이러한 그 multicultural environment and multilingual environment 이런 다문화 다언어 환경 안에 저희 SIM 글로벌 에듀케이션이 많은 국제 학생들에게 학업의 기회를 제공하고 있습니다. 저희 SIM은 1964년에 설립된 싱가포르에서 가장 대표적인 선도적인 교육기관입니다. 그래서 저희 SIM 그룹 밑에는 SIM Professional Development 부서가 있고요. 오늘 이 온라인 세션을 진행하는 저희 SIM 글로벌 에듀케이션 또 바디가 있고요. 지난 2017년도까지는 SIM 유니버시티라고 하는 대학 그 바디가 있었습니다. 그런데 이 SIM 유니버시티는 2017년도에 저희 싱가포르의 6개의 그 국립대 중에 하나로 이제 편입이 되면서 현재는 SUSS, Singapore University of Social Science로 이렇게 편입이 됐고요. 현재 여전히 같은 same 캠퍼스 안에 또 SUS도 함께 지금 캠퍼스를 쉐어링하고 있습니다. 자, 저희 오늘 T&E 세션 국가를 초월하는 교육의 핵심이 뭐냐면 저희 이 싱가포르라고 하는 다국적 환경 속에서 미국의 명문대학교, 또 영국의 명문대학교, 호주의 명문대학교들의 학위 과정을 공부를 할 수 있다라고 하는 부분이 가장 중요한 점입니다. 그래서 미국의 명문대학교인 뉴욕주립대 University at Buffalo 대학교 학위 과정이 저희 SIM 캠퍼스에서 제공이 되고 있고요. 많은 한국 유학생들이 현재 공부를 하고 있습니다. 또한 UK에서는 University of London, University of Birmingham, 그다음 와윅 대학교, 스털링 대학교 이런 영국의 명문 대학교들이 또 저희 SIM에서 학위 과정을 제공하고 있고요. 호주의 학교들 중에는 RMIT University, Lathrop University, 그다음 University of Wollongong, Australia 이러한 호주의 명문 대학교들이 저희 SIM 싱가포르에서 학위 과정을 제공하고 있습니다. 또한 대학원 과정으로 유럽의 프랑스의 명문 그 비즈니스 스쿨이죠. 또 그레노블 에콜 데 매니지먼트라고 하는 이 학교가 저희 SIM에서 학위 과정을 제공하고 있습니다. 자, 그렇다면 이 싱가포르에서 US, UK, 오스트레일리아 이런 프렌치 학위를 취급하는 거의 장점이 뭡니까? 이렇게 궁금하신 분들이 계실 거예요. 첫 번째는 바로 듀레이션입니다. 영국과 미국의 그 현지에서 유학을 하는 거에 대비 SIM의 유학 환경은 트라이 세메스터, 즉 1년에 3학기제로 운영이 되다 보니 학위를 취득하는 기간이 상대적으로 짧습니다. 또한 코스 피에 있어서도요. 저희 SIM에서 납부하는 등록금 자체가 상당히 어포더블하고 조금 합리적인 그러한 등록금 정책을 저희가 제공하고 있습니다. 또한 이렇게 기간과 학비 측면에서 유리하면서도 마지막에 퀄리피케이션은 동일하게 수여받을 수 있다. 그래서 바로 US, UK, 오스트레일리아 유니버시티 디그리를 우리 싱가포르에서 취득할 수 있다. 그리고 한국과 가까운 싱가포르에서 취득할 수 있다라고 하는 장점이 있습니다. 저희 SIM 캠퍼스를 한번 좀 더 소상히 말씀드릴게요. 전교 재학생들이 1년에 17,000여 명 정도 되는 사실 굉장히 규모가 큰 그러한 교육기관입니다. 그래서 동문 규모의 숫자도 상당히 많이 있고요. 이러한 그 풍부하고 굉장히 규모가 큰 캠퍼스 환경 속에서 저희 SIM은 다양한 학생 지원 프로그램을 운영하고 있는데요. 대표적으로 프로젝트 1095라 그래서 이 1095가 365일 곱하기 3해서 3년이라는 기간을 의미합니다. 이 기간 동안 우리 SIM의 재학생들이 커리어 커넥트에서부터 뭐 글로벌 러닝의 기회, 또 러닝 서포트 등 다양한 그런 그 학생 역량을 개발하는 환경을 누릴 수가 있어요. 그래서 대표적으로 이게 이제 커리어 커넥트에 관련된 주요 활동 액티비티들인데요. 저희 캠퍼스에서 커리어 페어를 또 주관을 하고요. 또 국제 학생들을 연계해서 취업의 기회를 계속 또 많이 더 만들어주기 위해 노력하고 있고요. 또 저희 싱가포르에서 공부를 하지만 단순히 싱가포르에서만 머무는 것이 아니라 저희 학교는 굉장히 아주 vast 네트워크, 아주 많은 네트워크를 가지고 있습니다. 그래서 한국에 있는 특히 또 여러 명문 대학교들하고도 제휴가 되어 있어서 뭐 고려대학교, 한양대학교 이런 이화여대와 같은 학교들과 또 단기 교환학생 프로그램도 운영을 하고 있습니다. 자, 그다음에 저희 그 SIM 재학생들에게 어떤 아카데믹한 측면의 서포트를 위해서 저희 뭐 피어 어시스티드 러닝이라 그래서 학교의 선배들이 우리 후배들의 공부를 도와주는 프로그램도 활성화되어 있고요. 또한 이런 학생들의 웰페어 측면, 정말 넌 아카데믹한 라이프에 있어서까지 학생들의 어떤 복지와 해외 생활에 적응을 돕기 위해서 이 저희 스튜던트 웰니스 센터, 학생 복지 센터죠. 이러한 프로그램을 아주 섬세하게 운영하고 있는 그런 교육기관입니다. SIM에는 아무래도 재학생 규모가 많다 보니까 다양한 동아리 활동들이 활성화되어 있습니다. 그래서 특히 저희 이제 외국 학생들 같은 경우에는 이런 동아리 활동을 통해서 현지 네트워킹과 어떤 현지 적응의 이런 기회를 더욱더 높일 수가 있습니다. 자, 저희 캠퍼스를 좀 사진으로만 only photo here, just briefly share our facilities. 자, 여기가 이제 그랜드 홀이고요. 다양한 행사가 열리는 곳입니다. 또 여기는 퍼포밍 아트 시애터죠. 여기서 이제 동아리 공연도 있고요. 여러 가지 행사들이 또 진행이 됩니다. 또 저희가 이제 복합 실내 체육관이 있어서요. 사시사철 싱가포르는 여름이잖아요. 근데 항상 또 쾌적한 환경에서 운동을 할 수 있고 이러한 최첨단 어떤 교육 시설들이 130여 개의 강의실과 세미나리 구축된 굉장히 규모가 큰 교육 캠퍼스 기관입니다. 또 여기는 이제 그 컴퓨터 사이언스라든지 이런 실습실이고요. 또 여기 이제 뱅킹 앤 파이낸스 전공 학생들이 주로 이제 실시간으로 금융 트레이닝을 하는 그런 시설입니다. 또 이제 여기는 이제 커리어 커넥트 오피스인데요. 학생들의 employability, 어떤 취업 경쟁력을 높여주기 위한 활동들이 많이 이루어지는 곳입니다. 또 싱가포르에서 가장 큰 최대 규모의 경영 전문 도서관이 저희 SIM에 또 시설이 확립되어 있습니다. 또 저희 SIM의 어떤 히스토리와 헤리티지를 한 번에 볼 수 있는 그런 헤리티지 갤러리도 있고요. 또 저희 복합체육관 루프탑에 올라가면 이런 또 쾌적한 테니스 코트도 저희가 학생들에게 제공하고 있습니다. 또 저희 SIM 재학생들은 누구나 이렇게 건강한 체력을 유지하기 위해서 또 학생 체력 단련실도 운영을 하고 있습니다. 여기도 이제 학생 복지센터고요. 또 저희 또 빼놓을 수 없는 저희의 자랑이죠. 아주 맛있는 캔틴도 저희가 이제 준비가 잘 되어 있는 그런 학교입니다. 자, 이제 저희가 곧 패널 세션을 이제 좀 진행을 할 텐데요. 오늘 패널 세션은 주로 영어로 이제 우선 진행이 될 겁니다. 그리고 이제 저희가 중간중간 그리고 이제 저희 마지막 부분에 간략하게 한국어 이제 세션이 번역을 제가 좀 도와드릴 거고요. 첫 번째로 이제 웰커밍과 인트로덕션이 좀 진행이 되고 두 번째로는 이제 저희 UB 프로그램과 어떤 Transnational Education에 관한 소개, 그다음 세 번째는 어떤 패널 컨버세이션 세션이 진행될 거고요. 네 번째로 이제 one more time 다시 한번 summary as a whole in Korean language 진행될 겁니다. 그리고 Q&A 세션이 있으니까 참석하신 분들 메모해 두셨다가 질문 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 그리고 모든 패널 세션 끝나면 또 다시 한번 다른 미팅룸에서 질문이 또 상담이 제공됩니다. 자, 그래서요. 저희까지 소개 세션 마치겠고요. 감사합니다. So now let me invite Resident Director Dr. Kevin and Instructor Mr. Dennis and our SIM UB student Mr. Kim Sung Taek. Let me invite. Now back to you guys. Thanks.
Well, thank you, David, and thank you for the very nice introduction to SIM. I don't know Korean, but I could get the main ideas according to the slides, so that was very helpful, and I think it'll make my own part of the presentation more efficient. I'm Dr. Kevin Mckelvey. I'm the resident director of the SIM UB program. I've been here in Singapore for almost 17 years now running our program. And I'm very proud of this program. It's a wonderful program that we offer whereby students from Singapore or really from any other place can come and earn a University at Buffalo degree entirely here on the SIM campus without ever having to go to the United States. Although they also have the opportunity, if they would like to spend part of the time studying at our home campus in beautiful Buffalo, New York. And so our two panelists today, Dennis he studies at the home campus as a doctoral student and comes to Singapore to teach for us. And Taek is a student who has come from Singapore, from Korea to study here in Singapore. We'll have them share their views and their experiences a bit later on. But before we begin with that, I will share, first of all, a short video and then a short presentation with some of the details about our program. So if you'll just give me a moment, let me share my screen and find the video, first of all. Whoops, one moment. I think I have to change the settings here to show the video.
In the meantime, Dr. Kevin is preparing. Let me explain a little bit in Korean. 저희 닥터 케빈 박사님께서는 저희 싱가포르에서 17년 정도 상주하시면서 저희 버팔로 프로그램을 운영해주고 계시고요. 또 많은 한국 재학생들에게 어떤 아카데믹한 가이드라인과 또 커리큘럼 운영에 아주 핵심적인 역할을 해주고 계신 저희 패컬티이십니다. 그래서 오늘 저희 그 미스터 데니스는 저희 버팔로의 동문이시면서 또 버팔로의 이제 그 교수분으로 또 강사님으로 함께 또 참여하고 계시고요. 또 김스택 학생은 현재 이제 싱가포르에 재학 중인 저희 학생입니다. 네, 유익한 세션 되시기를 바라겠습니다.
Just one moment. There should be some sort of button here, if I'm not mistaken, that would allow me to share my audio. Does anyone remember where I can find that?
Dr. Kevin, is it on the top? Do you have a bar on the top? And then there will be an option that you can choose share computer sound.
I'm looking for that. Share computer sound. Thank you. Thank you, Joyce. I have just found it. Okay. So are you now able to see my
Yes, yes,
video?
Yes.
yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so I will start the video.
Sure.
We're sitting here with the Assistant Resident Director of the SIMUB programs, Ms. Katie Fassbinder,
And I'm Dr. Kevin Mckelvey, the Resident Director of the SIMUB programs.
and we're here to talk a little bit more about the programs that we offer here in Singapore at the SIM campus. Kevin, some Singaporeans may be less familiar with American style of higher education. What do you think are some of the more unique features of the American education and pedagogy?
Well, two things come to mind, Katie, and the first one is experiential learning. That means that we feel that students learn best not by passively listening, but by actively doing things. So our curriculum involves lots and lots of project work. Students get a lot of practice doing presentations. They're very actively involved. And we think that by this active involvement, they derive much better learning outcomes than if they were simply passively listening to lectures. The second thing that comes to mind is continuous assessment. And so the American system of education is built very heavily on the notion that students can learn in a variety of manners, and they can also demonstrate their learning in a variety of manners. So we don't put everything all into one big final exam. Rather, there will be short quizzes throughout the semester. There could be a midterm, a final exam, there could be research papers, there could be presentations, projects. Each module has its own very robust assessment scheme.
Thanks, Kevin. The State University of New York, or SUNY system, is the largest comprehensive public university system in the USA. University at Buffalo is the biggest campus in the SUNY system. What are some other remarkable features of the UB brand?
Well, I would say the main thing to point out is that it's a public university. In Singapore, we're part of the private sector, but we are in the United States a public university. That's absolutely clear that we're affiliated with the state of New York. So that means that we have a very robust level of standards that we have to meet that come to us from a variety of sources, including the state of New York itself. Plus, we are fully accredited by the Middle States Commission. So that's a peer review process to ensure that our courses, our curricula are on a par with the normal standards for research universities in the United States. Another big point, we are a research university. So the faculty who teach in our program here in Singapore are not just lecturers, they're actual researchers who are on the cutting edge of knowledge within their own field of specialization. Lastly, I think it's important to point out the value that students get. The cost of education is relatively low if you were to compare, for example, to private universities. So it's about a 2/3 saving overall.
Nice.
Lastly, I suppose we could talk about the learning outcomes in general for our program. And one of the things we're very, very proud of is that our graduates are very distinctive, largely because of the skills that they develop beyond just the content area knowledge. Within our program, we put a great emphasis on holistic education. We want our students to participate in things outside of class. We also expect them to develop in class, not just, as I say, the content area knowledge, but presentation skills, time management skills, working together in groups on cooperative types of projects. These are all the exact sort of things that help people once they actually enter the job market.
Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts today, Kevin.
Thank you, Katie. I think we should also point out that one of the really nice advantages of joining UB is that students can get lovely bisons.
Our
Plush
awesome
toys.
mascot.
Yes. No other university that I know of has such an awesome mascot as a bison. Plus, we also have these beautiful banners.
We hope to see you at the University at Buffalo.
지금 그 비디오에서 저희가 이제 그 UB 프로그램의 핵심을 좀 말씀을 드리면은요, 저희 이제 한국 for Korean audiences, briefly, experiential learning, 경험적 그 학습을 강조하고 있습니다. 그리고 이제 그 UB 프로그램을 통해서 정말 그 커리어 필드에서 바로 활용될 수 있는 그런 실제적인 어떤 배움을 굉장히 강조하고 있고요. 저희 싱가포르에서 제공되는 UB 프로그램이 동일한 어센틱한 그런 커리큘럼과 서티피컷이 최종적으로 동일하게 진행되고 있다. 이런 부분을 좀 기억해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
Okay, thank you, David. And just to so everyone realizes, I do have my bison here with me today. I never go too far from my bison. It's something that we love very much about our university, and anyone who joins our university can have one of these wonderful plush toys as well as a lot of other merchandise with the UB logo and so on. So I will continue now with this brief presentation. Are you all able to see my slides at this point?
Oh, sorry, Dr. Kevin. I think you have to share your slides again.
I have to share again. Okay, give me just a moment.
We can see the slides now.
Okay, so I'll begin my presentation, and I'll go through these rather quickly because, in fact, a lot of the material in the slide presentation has already been covered by David, and some of the things were mentioned in my video as well. But I think it's nice to just start out with a definition of what we're talking about here, which is transnational education. So if you think of maybe international education, that's people going from one country, say Korea, to the United States on a study abroad program. This kind of thing has been very commonplace for many, many, many years. But transnational education is something a bit more recent, and it means that an institution offers its programs in a foreign country, and people can come there to that foreign country in order to earn a degree. So it's kind of sort of a third party sort of situation. So an example like that, a very common example, in fact, is an Australian university might open a campus in, say, Indonesia. In fact, they have many of them there. The credential that is earned, this is one of the other typical characteristics of transnational higher education, but the credential comes from the home institution. In other words, if there's a British university offer an MBA program in Malaysia, who grants the degree? It's the British university. So as long as that institution is offering its degree in a foreign country, that's still considered a part of transnational education. In many, many cases, however, the foreign university, when it comes into a country, will work together with a local partner, which is exactly what we do in Singapore. We are from Buffalo, New York in the United States, but we partner with the Singapore Institute of Management, and not by coincidence. We love SIM. It's a wonderful partner to work with, and it allows us to do something which is actually quite extraordinary, offer our entire degree program here in Singapore with lots of help and support from our partner institution, SIM. And so when you think about it, why would people do this? Why would you want to go to some third country to get a degree like that? Why not just go to the United States to get an American degree? Why come to Singapore for that purpose, or in any other case of people going from one country to another seeking out degrees? And so I've listed out here some of the advantages. Students can stay closer to home. Certainly from Korea to Singapore is a lot closer than Korea to the United States. So traveling back and forth, we're also only one time zone apart. So I think it would be very easy for people, if you want to have a Zoom conference with your family members back home, you can do it at the same time of day, essentially. Not so easy for us who are halfway around the world from home with a 12 or 13-hour time difference. The culture can be more similar. Actually, for here in Singapore, I am not Korean, but I feel almost as if I live in Korea. The neighborhood that I live in is densely populated with people who come here from Korea. They work for Samsung, they work for other Korean companies that are here in Singapore. So if I were to walk out my door, actually a few hundred meters is a little bar that specializes in Korean food and drinks and so on. So I think you would feel very, very comfortable finding lots of Korean things here in Singapore. And Singapore is an incredibly safe place, very, very safe. It's hard to find safer places than Korea. And than Singapore. Korea is very safe too, And but Singapore, I think, is at the top of the list of safe places in the world. The U.S. Depends on where you are and what the circumstances are at the time that you're there. So yes, so of course, then we have lower costs here in Singapore, which David has mentioned, and I have another slide on that later on. But it's the exact same degree. What you're getting is the same degree, you're just getting it in a different location. And along with that comes the reputation of the foreign degree and the foreign degree institution, the institution that's granting the degree. So I think that anybody who's considering this, this is something some people might wonder, is this credible? Is it worthwhile? And these are very good questions. So this has been going on really since 1995. At that point, there was a treaty signed by many of the countries in the world, the members of the World Trade Organization, called the GATS Treaty, the General Agreement on Trade in Services. This allowed countries to begin trading in things other than just sort of manufactured goods, raw materials, agricultural products, and so on. They started trading in services, and among the services that they could trade in is education. So this allowed for the expansion of universities across borders around the world. And in the early days, I think that it was problematic because it was new. There was not a very robust regulatory environment, and there were many programs that were launched which wound up failing, and it was problematic for the students who had enrolled in those. But now we are well beyond that, 26 years or so beyond the GATS Treaty. The programs that are still up and running are well run, credible, and we are very, very concerned in our program about delivering exactly the same quality program that we have at our home campus here in Singapore. And we have had a collaboration with SIM since 1996. Our undergraduate program has been running since 2004. So 17 years we've been running our undergraduate program, and during that entire time, I have been here in Singapore. David, would you just like to summarize what I've just said before I go on to Buffalo and our SIM collaboration?
Okay, sure. Let me briefly explain that in Korean. 지금 버팔로 대학교가 저희 SIM하고 이제 제휴가 되는 어떤 형태는 마치 이제 호주에 있는 학교가 인도네시아에 뭐 글로벌 캠퍼스를 설립하고 영국의 MBA가 말레이시아에 있다 하더라도 사실 크리덴셜은 메인 캠퍼스에서 오는 학위는 본교에서 오는 그런 구조, 보편적인 구조고요. 이 핵심은 왜 그러면 미국으로 가지 않고 이렇게 싱가포르에서 공부를 하는 어떤 장점이 있는가? 사실은 이제 가까운 거리와 또 좀 한국 문화, 코리안 컬처, 친숙한 문화, 그리고 안전함 이런 부분에 있어서 장점이 있고 또 상대적으로 낮은 등록금 그리고 또 결국엔 동일한 학위 그러면서도 이제 잘 확립된 프로그램들 때문에 이런 프로그램이 상당히 유용하다. 그리고 사실 어떻게 이런 교육이 싱가포르에 올 수 있었을까 할 때 이제 GATT 트리티 다음에 이제 국제 간의 트레이드가 활발해질 때 이 서비스 영역에서 이 교육까지도 국제 간의 교류가 활발해지면서 이 버팔로 프로그램이 싱가포르에 확립되는 계기가 됐다라고 이제 그 서반부에 말씀을 해주셨습니다. Okay, now back to you, Dr. Kevin.
Okay, thank you. I'll go quickly through the remaining slides so we can start our panel. So our collaboration with SIM, as I've said, has been in place since 1996. We are accredited fully by our accrediting agency back in the United States, which is called Middle States. Our business program is accredited by AACSB, the highest level of accreditation you can get for business. And we are also accredited here in Singapore by CPE, the Committee for Private Education. So if anybody were concerned about oversight, you needn't be concerned. We have lots of it. We are constantly being audited and going through reviews of our curriculum, of all of our operating procedures, everything to ensure it's on a par with everything that we do back at our home campus. And so here in Singapore, we offer 7 different undergraduate degrees. Our home campus has about 200, but we're a smaller program here in Singapore. Our undergraduate majors are in Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. That's what you see here, BSCBA. Bachelor of Science in Geographic Information Science. That's our newest degree program. Bachelor of Arts in Communication. Bachelor of Arts in Economics, Bachelor of Arts in International Trade, Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, and Bachelor of Arts in Sociology. You also have the opportunity to combine any two of those into either a double degree, that's a Bachelor of Arts together with a Bachelor of Science, or a double major. So two of them together, say Bachelor of Arts in Psychology combined with Bachelor of Arts in Communication, for example. Any combination you would like to make, you are welcome to create. We have an excellent connection to our home campus and very good value, wonderful networking. Our university is the flagship of the State University of New York system. So within this public education system I spoke about in our video, we are the single largest. We have the largest number of degree programs. We have the largest number of students, the largest faculty. And here's a map showing the state of New York. Buffalo is located out here on the border with Canada. So just across the border, actually a few miles up the road is Niagara Falls. You drive a little ways and around the lake and you come to Toronto in Canada. So that's where we are located. But what you see on this map are all of the different campuses of the State University of New York, of which we are the single biggest campus. So it is a huge system, very, very big. We have about 250,000 students overall in the SUNY system and about 30,000 at our University of Buffalo home campus. We're a member of what's called the AAU, Association of American Universities. These are the most prominent research universities in the United States. You cannot simply join. You have to be elected in by the existing members. So if you see the universities that began this organization in the year 1900, these are all the Ivy League schools, the very best quality research universities, and they have included us within their ranks as a peer institution. So we're very, very proud of that. This map shows the distribution of the AAU universities, and here is ours, Buffalo, in the state of New York. We have a very good connection to the home campus, whereby about half of our instructors come to teach the courses from the home campus. And as I mentioned in the video, these are researchers from a research university, cutting edge of their knowledge within their field of specialization. The faculty who we hire locally have similar types of qualifications and would be eligible to be appointed as an adjunct to teach at our home campus. They are all approved by the departments in which they teach from the home campus. My assistant resident director, Katie, who you saw in the video, and I stay here year round. That is our full-time job to oversee this program here in Singapore. And there is also this opportunity in principle to study at the home campus. We call this UB Bound. And currently, because of COVID, it is suspended. We are not allowing students to go because of the risk involved with traveling. We are hopeful that within the next few months or so, enough people will receive the vaccination so that international travel will become more plausible and safe, and this will be reopened. And when it does, students who start the program here in Singapore will have the opportunity to spend a semester or more at the home campus. And they have to pay out-of-state tuition to go there, which is more costly than studying in Singapore, but it's a wonderful opportunity for students who want to take this up. And it also includes the possibility of doing optional practical training, which means that after you finish your degree and you complete your student visa in the United States, you can stay on for an additional year to look for a job or an internship beyond the end of the time of your student visa. And it is a great value. As I mentioned, it's about 1/3 or so. It costs about 1/3 to study here in Singapore as it would to cost in the US. So I've listed out in this chart, I won't go into great detail, but if you look at the bottom row here, I converted it to South Korean won. And the cost, if you were to study in Buffalo, New York, would be per semester, including housing, including food, including all of your course fees and so on, would be close to 25 million Korean won. Whereas if you go come here to Singapore, it would be a little over 7 million, but this one does not include housing or food. That you would have to pay on your own. So if you add in those costs, the moral of the story, though, is that it is significantly less to study here in Singapore than it would be to study at the home campus. Studying in the United States is the most expensive place you could go to study. Even though our university is reasonably priced by American standards, it's still very expensive compared to Singapore. And our graduates are finding wonderful jobs in the public sector, private sector. Some go on to graduate studies at very reputable universities here in Singapore, in the United States, in other countries around the world as well. And we are very proud of our graduates because, as I mentioned in my video, we have great learning outcomes, which really are dependent on the curriculum that is so heavily oriented towards participation in class, active learning, cooperative types of project work, and so on. So students really get to develop a very robust set of skills that make them employable. It is not a coincidence that our students do so well after they graduate. So these are the things that are wonderful selling points of our program. The campus is absolutely outstanding, as David has already explained, showing the virtual tour. And we can hear now more from our two panelists. If David would first like to just summarize this portion of the presentation, and then we can move on from there.
Sure, would be great. So far, the Dr. Kevin, 그래서 설명하신 부분, 제일 먼저 이 버팔로 대학교의 여러 가지 이제 그 크리덴셜들, 사실 가장 대표적인 게 Association of American University 멤버인데요. 이게 이제 우리가 알고 있는 아이비리그 대학교들과 사실 어깨를 나란히 하는 굉장히 프리스티지한 그런 멤버 그 스테이터스입니다. 그리고 이제 뭐 피지컬한 어떤 그 학교 캠퍼스 위치는 캐나다와 인접한, 여러분들 잘 알고 계신 나이아가라 폭포하고도 인접해 있는 그런 곳에 있으면서 사실 그 버팔로 대학교의 그 메인 캠퍼스 환경과 좀 비교를 해주셨고요. 싱가포르에서는 사실 학부 과정이 7개가 제공이 되고 있습니다. 그런데 이제 버팔로 그 뉴욕 캠퍼스에서는 200여 개의 학부 과정이 제공이 되고 있고요. 싱가포르에서도 복수학위와 또 복수 전공 이렇게 다 선택이 되고, 가장 특징적인 부분은 UB 바운드 프로그램이에요. 지금 현재 이제 코비드 때문에 좀 진행이 멈춰 있기는 하지만 이 UB 바운드 프로그램을 통해서 학생이 뉴욕 캠퍼스에서 이제 공부를 끝내고 나중에 이제 옵트 프로그램이라고 해서 이제 그 커리어를 좀 잡서칭을 할 수 있는 오퍼튜니티를 좀 가질 수 있는 그런 좀 독특한 프로그램을 저희가 제공을 하고 있습니다. 그럼에도 저희 SIM 버팔로 프로그램이 가진 장점 중에 하나는 뭐냐면 생활비 측면에서 굉장히 유리하고요. 그 뉴욕에서 유학하는 비용보다 생활비 측면에서 거의 한 절반 수준 가까이 이렇게 significantly하게 less한 그런 생활비를 가지고 있고, 싱가포르 UB에서 공부를 끝내고 나중에 그 취업에 나갈 때도 employment rate가 거의 한 80%에 육박하고 있고, 뭐 private sector, public sector, 뭐 민간 영역, 공공 영역 이런 곳에 저희 졸업생들이 커리어를 잘 개척해 나가고 있다. 이제 그거에 대한 가장 좀 이유는 그 버팔로 커리큘럼 자체가 사실 rather than memorization, 이 단순 암기식의 어떤 그런 공부가 아니라 more of project work, interactive curriculum. 그러니까 이런 걸 통해서 실제 어떤 학생들의 그 커리어적인 역량을 키워주기 때문에 상당히 졸업생들이 커리어 필드에서 좀 선방을 하고 있다. 이런 부분을 좀 이해해 주시고 있으면 좋겠습니다. 이제 좀 패널리스트 세션으로 넘어가겠습니다. Now back to you all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, David. So let me now turn to our panelists. Actually, I can stop the share of this and we can just go back to a normal view. So let's start with just some introductions. If Dennis and Tech, maybe we'll start with you, Dennis. If you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and tell us where specifically have you studied outside of Korea? What has been your educational journey up to this point? Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Dennis, or my Korean name is Woo-hyuk. Nice to meet you everyone. So I'm currently visiting instructor at UBSIM program, but now I'm in Korea because of the virus situation. And to explain my educational background, so in my case, except for the PhD program now I'm doing in America, I've accomplished all the formal education in Korea. So I think I can really kind of directly compare like the the advantage of this and disadvantage of Korean and American educational system. So that's why I'm here today. And so I spent 3.5 years in America for my PhD program, and then I taught 4 semesters in Singapore. And then maybe this is not like really education, but I also spent 6 months in Brazil to do my field work. Okay, yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Dennis. And I remember the very first time I met you, Dennis, when you first walked into the office here at SIM several years ago, and I think you were wearing a Texas T-shirt or something like that. And I thought, well, he seems like an American. I mean, so your U.S. education really shows. So
Yeah.
Tech, could you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Tech, or my name is Kim Seung Tech, but you can just call me Tech. And I have only studied in Korea for 3 years, because like since I was 9 years old, I went to Indonesia and studied in Indonesia. Then I graduated from international school, then came to Singapore, but different school. So like for a year, I attended different school other than SIM, then went back to Korea for national service. Then since 2007, I was in UB program. So that's all.
Okay, thank you. So the next question I have for you is, what was it that made you want to go overseas, or maybe the circumstances that led you to leave Korea and go on to seek something else?
I don't know, maybe I start first. Yeah, so because I only like studied in Korea like through my whole life, like before I went to America, the first reason I really was eager to kind of like experience another culture, especially classroom culture, because if you know the Korean classroom culture, it's really, how can I say, like one way and really rigid, and like you're not really allowed to like ask questions, you're not really allowed to like express yourself. So I just heard that it's different in America, so I went to America. And practically also I knew that if you have American degree, that it's applicable in any other country. I mean, not every, but most of the countries in the world. So that's why I decided to go to America.
Okay, thank you. So Tech, what was your motivation for going overseas?
So at first it was involuntary because my family had to move to Indonesia. But after graduating international school at Indonesia, I felt like I didn't want to waste my childhood experience in overseas and go back to Korea for university. And also I felt I'm quite unfamiliar with Korean academic culture and also some like Korean culture. That's why I chose to study in overseas.
So you are what we would call a third culture kid, you know, somebody from one place who was educated somewhere else and has been around, part of a whole generation of people now who have grown up under globalization of a level that was previously unheard of. And I should add myself, you know, I did a study abroad program as an undergraduate, and it was life changing. I think that studying in a foreign country, there's just something about it that you will never be the same after that, and it will open your eyes to the world in ways that you can't imagine until you've actually done it. So I will then ask each of you to share what are the ways that you think you have benefited from your overseas studies academically. Dennis?
Yeah, so maybe grad school can be a little bit different from undergrad school, but I would say like an interaction between instructors or professors or whoever delivering the class and the students, that was really different, I would say. So for Koreans, we're not really asked to like express yourself in the classrooms. We just like listen to what the instructor is saying and try to memorize it and take exams. I think that's like all. But in America, I was kind of surprised that all the students were so willing to say something. I was really surprised. And not only that, I was also surprised how the instructors interact with students, because let's say for us, maybe like some comments from American students might sound really silly or ridiculous or stupid sometimes also. But I found that what the instructors do in America is they try to find like hidden gems from those like seemingly ridiculous comments. So in that way, students, if the instructor can find something from that comment, then the student can also develop their own idea. And then also for the instructors, they can have like learn new ideas from students. So in that way, I could feel that it's not only like one direction, like instructors, students are learning each other. And I really enjoy that. I really enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah, those are great points. And I would say, as somebody who was taught in the US, that it's absolutely the case that if you really want to welcome and draw out of the students their ideas, and even if they are silly, you can move on from there to something better. That's all part of the learning process.
Yeah.
And it's something that we value very, very much.
Yeah.
Tech, how about your experience with this? How have you benefited academically?
I think it helped me to think outside the box, because when I was first grade, second grade, third grade, I was forced memorization in Korea, because all I have to do was exams. But after attending like international school in Indonesia and UB program, they are all project based, and mostly the exams are usually like 30% or 40% toward the total grade. So it's not that so heavily focused. So it helped me to force application of knowledge, so I could think outside the box. And also, secondly, it helped me to broaden the spectrum of my cultural knowledge, because I get to encounter a lot of different cultures. So I get to have diverse and accept other cultures, and also can see from another viewpoint. And it also made me less stereotypical towards people. And lastly, it helped me to become bilingual. So it helped me to able to speak, think, listen, write freely in Korean and English.
Yeah, these are all wonderful things. I couldn't agree more. That for my own study abroad experience led me into a career in international education, and something that you both shared. About uh, the Korean system, which demands a lot of memorization. We wonder why. Why on earth? People can find information very, very quickly and very easily just by picking up their hand phone. But what really matters once you actually go and start working in the world is actual everyday problems. No one goes to work and takes exams. So they go to work and they have, oh dear, my God, here's a crisis. We have a pandemic. What are we going to do? No exam you've ever taken will ever help you with something like that. So these are all wonderful things to hear about your experiences. Maybe if you could also just share next about how your overseas study has helped you to develop personally, just sort of as a your own more holistic development.
Okay, so if you don't mind, Tech, I'll just start. I feel like I could learn more about myself. So let's say if you only live in your home country, so in most of the cases here, it'll be Korea. So we take many aspects of our lives for granted if you're only in Korea. But if you're exposed to like different culture, different languages, different people, like different political system, like many different things, right? Then you'll see like yourself might not like feel happy with this one, or you might feel kind of uncomfortable with that one. So in that way, you will know, oh, like actually I was like this kind of person. So for me, I would say, just like talking a little bit about myself, I think when I was in Korea, I thought I would like love going to parties and have fun with people if I go to America. But when I went to America, like when they say party, it is really different from what we do in Korea. Like in Korea, we usually go to bars and just hang around and just talk to each other. But in America, it's like a home party. You know, like you should know how to like start a conversation with other people. So some people might like it, some people might not like it. But by exposing to by being exposed to these kind of experience, then you will know, oh, like actually I'm this kind of person, or maybe I'm not. Or maybe you can think about yourself as kind of cosmopolitan. But if you go to another country, then maybe you will realize actually I was not, or you can also confirm that you are. Okay, so I felt like that in my case. Yeah.
Thank you. Tech, how about you?
For my case, it helped me to improve self-confidence because the presentation skills and speech skills that I learned helped me to speak in front of a lot of people. And also it improved my auditiveness when traveling abroad because I can speak in English and I know that I can open a communication with any strangers. So it helped me to travel easily abroad. And also it helped me to adapt quickly in any circumstances. And I would say the greatest benefit would be foreign friends because I get to make a lot of diverse national friends. And yeah, they are all good people.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, great observations. For me personally, I would have to say the self-confidence that one gets of living and surviving in a foreign environment is also something, and we notice that especially from our students who go over to Buffalo and come back. It's as if they've been transformed. The level of sort of just maturity and confidence that people can gain from that is really stunning. Let's see, Dennis or Tech, next question. This is a question.
Oh, Kevin, you're muted.
My goodness, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so next question for Tech. You studied in Jakarta and in the SIM diploma programs before joining UB. What were some of the challenges you faced in adjusting to study outside of Korea?
The biggest thing would be language. When I was 9 years old, I had zero knowledge about English. But suddenly I just dropped at international school and everyone was speaking in English. So I was like, what are they talking about? And also I could not catch up any classes. So for first week, I remember I cried a lot and principal had to always come to help me out. But slowly I learned English, firstly by body language, because when I wanted to drink, I would say like this. Then the teacher would say, oh, drink water. Then I learned from those. And in Singapore, the language was also, because in Singapore, we mix Chinese and English. So when you go to food center, they will mix Chinese and English. So at first, when I came to Singapore, I was like, huh? Are they speaking English or Chinese? Then later realized that it's a mixture of both. The second thing would be culture, because the culture is the food they eat and the weather they have, and also the clothing they wear. Everything is different. So it gave me quite a hard time adjusting to firstly in Indonesian culture. And for Singapore culture, it was quite similar to Korea, so it was quite easy to adapt. I think lastly would be weather, because it's always summer here. So at first I could not get used to it, but gradually get used to it. So now my favorite weather is summer.
I completely agree with you on that. Have you ever, or have you considered going to Buffalo? If you miss winter, that would be a nice trip to take.
No, I really hate winter.
Same here. That's why I have been here now for so long and have happy to stay here. So next question for Dennis. Dennis, you studied in the US. You're now teaching for UB, including for SIM UB. What were the challenges you faced as both a student and instructor within a transnational setting?
So actually, Tech mentioned weather, so I think I would also add that one. When I went to Buffalo, wow, it was really, really cold. Sometimes I think the lowest temperature I experienced was like -24, and sometimes it snows a lot. So that was, and before that, I really, okay, maybe this is related to the previous question. Another thing I learned is weather is really important in your life, really, really important. So okay, so that was one thing. And for me also, because English is not my mother tongue, for sure, I had some hardship at the beginning. But especially because in America, I was continuously asked to participate more and more, as much as I can. So that was one reason, one reason why I had some hardship. But as time has gone, now I feel way more comfortable than before. So I think all the students here also, if you have a chance to study in Singapore or America, wherever, I think you will learn English a lot. And secondly, maybe this is not that important, but as a Korean, I really found it's really hard to make relationships with professors. So in America, I think, like for example, now I just call like Kevin, but in Korea, I think you are not really allowed to say so. Maybe you should say like Dr. Mckelvey or something like that. So but I saw that all my colleagues are just calling them, hey, like Kevin, hey, Dennis, like to their professors. So it was really weird for me, but now I'm kind of fine with that. And unfortunately, in terms of like having friends there, maybe I was lucky, but my colleagues were all good people, so I really didn't have a problem with that. So I was fine. And as an instructor in Singapore, so I think to some extent, the classroom culture, I mean, I'm not talking about UB, but like general Singapore, I think the classroom culture is quite similar to Korea. So I found maybe like for the first 2 semesters, it was really hard for me to kind of encourage students to participate. So so every time after that experience, I like at the beginning of the semester, I tell the students like this is an American educational institution, so we have to like meet these kind of goals, and then I also explain the benefits of attending UB. So yeah, you're actually sometimes I just told them you're forced to participate, and then I also like try to kind of like be friendly to students, so like being approachable. So in that way, I think now students are participating more than when I like first taught classes. So I think it's fine now. Yeah. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I would say those are great points, and it's a process. It's a process. It's a process even for American students when they go to school. You don't automatically just go in and start participating. It requires encouragement, but the American system of education starts encouraging that in kindergarten and first grade. And so when students join our program, whether they are from Korea, whether they are from Singapore, whether they are from Indonesia, I think if they're coming from anywhere within this region, they are accustomed to a much more teacher-centered, one-way form of education. And it takes some getting used to, but it is not impossible. And we see great progress. And as you said, Dennis, over time, you just start to feel more comfortable, as you would with anything. Tech didn't know English at all when he went to Indonesia, but once you're immersed in that, as long as you buy into it and make the effort, that's what really counts. So yeah, thanks for both of you for sharing your insights about that. A question for Tech now. For students in Korea, what would you tell them are some of the advantages of coming here to Singapore, aside from escaping the winter?
I would say in Singapore, the Korean wave, K wave, is really strong in here. So you can see a lot of people watch K drama, K movie, eat K food, and also sing K songs. And I didn't know this at first, but most of Singaporeans, they know how to speak certain Korean. So they are really positive manner toward Koreans. So for Koreans, they would easily adapt to Singapore culture, and the, what to say, host national friends will approach to you more easily. And also, I feel like Singapore is a good place to improve English or Chinese, and also make new friends. Japanese, Korean, Malay, Indonesian, and most importantly, in Singapore, there are less new COVID cases than Korea. So it's much more safe.
Absolutely, yeah. When it comes to safety, Singapore is the best. It is absolutely the best. And so yeah, thank you. And I would emphasize Singapore is an incredibly uh, easy place to adapt to. You know, if you're coming from Korea, from one Asian country to another, I think that's it's fairly easy. But even for Westerners coming here, it's a very welcoming place, incredibly efficient, and just very civil and nice. So I can't imagine anyone coming here and not feeling welcome and being able to adjust very easily to life here in Singapore. Such a wonderful place to live and work and study. Question now for Dennis. Let's talk a little bit about your field, which is international trade. So you come from the geography department back in Buffalo, which offers the two majors that we offer here in international trade and geographic information science. Both of these are extremely promising fields for people to go into nowadays. Could you just tell our audience what you think would be some of the advantages for Korean students to come here and study those topics?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I would say, okay, so I'll first talk about international trade majors. So basically, if I have to describe the program in one sentence, I would say we study globalization. Okay, so I think whether you like it or not, I think it's now inevitable. Like globalization is inevitable. It's happening everywhere. A lot of services, products are traded, and the financial market, labor market is getting more and more open than before. So like people and everything are moving free. Also, many like different cultures are sometimes colliding or sometimes converging or sometimes like being more distinctive. There's so many things, and also causing a lot of like global scale environmental issues. There's so many aspects. Okay, so for Korean students, I think first, like practically, I would say Korea itself is a really heavily trade-oriented country. So we must know about the world. And especially, every time I think about this, even Korea is heavily trade-oriented. We are really homogeneous. I mean, in terms of like ethnicity. But why we just like don't learn about other countries, right? So I think the first thing is if you major international trade, you will learn about other countries. Okay, that is the first thing. The second one is I'll talk maybe in a Korean perspective. So in Korea, I think you would hear that many people say, "Oh, it's better to major like engineering because we have a lot of big manufacturing firms." I would say that's true. That is true. We need a lot of engineers who can like develop new products and new services. That's true. But as I said, globalization is involved in various aspects of our life or human society. Okay, so we don't only need specialists, we also need generalists who can also think about environment, who can think about the economy, who can think about human beings, who can think about a society, like all the things. Okay, so I think for international trade students, what the program tries to do is we try to train students to be ready to be a generalist who can deal with various aspects of globalization. So for sure, we provide a lot of like we asked students to do a lot of projects and also asked them to do a lot of writing samples, and also asked them to participate and asked them to do discussion, a lot of things, and also team working. So I think it's good to be a general. It's all good to be a generalist. And about GIS program, I would say in social science especially, all the human activities, they happen in a certain location, right? So we need some kind of locational data. And GIS, Geographic Information System, sorry, I actually had to explain this first. We use these kind of locational data. And by learning GIS, you can analyze and visualize these data. Okay, so this is the first thing. And I think it's for Koreans, it can be more promising because right now, because of some government regulations, as I know, locational data are not really available and not really collectible in Korea. But other countries like America, like everybody would know Uber, right? Uber is kind of a cutting edge company, not because they provide riding share services. It's because they have a bunch of data of like how people move, okay? So I think the Korean government would gradually open up the data because we need also tech firms who can compete with these global firms. So I think for Koreans later, it'll be really a promising field if you learn GIS. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's all.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, GIS, I think, would be promising almost anywhere, but and certainly when you think of the implications now as far as just tracking cases of COVID or all of these other things, it has so many applications. Probably when most people think about it, they think namely of things like Uber or things of that nature, but it seems almost limitless, the things that could be to which it could be applied. So a last question for both of you. Just generally, any holistic kind of advice for students who are in Korea now and might be considering going overseas to study? What would you briefly advise them? Dennis?
Okay, so actually the original question was kind of saying like, what would be the tips for like achieving success if you study abroad?
Yeah.
So I would say like success, it can mean really differently by everyone. So for some people, it might be like good career path. For some people, it might be like having making a family, whatever. There's so many things. So I think what you need to so I would define success as happiness, because like earning a lot of money, like finding a good job, those are all related to happiness. And I think the first step for happiness is knowing yourself. So you should know like when you're happy and when you are not happy. And I think if you study in a foreign country, so like maybe this comment is similar to what I explained before. If you study in a foreign country, if you're exposed to different things, then you will like better know about yourself, and then you will know what makes you happy and what makes you unhappy. I think in that way, then you will you can find a better job for yourself, and also you can maybe like find a good mate who really goes along well with you, like that. So I think I would say, yeah, just think about yourself a lot. I think like studying abroad will give you a lot of chances. And plus, maybe practically participate a lot for sure. Then if you don't, you'll not really enjoy the benefits of American educational system. Plus, your English will not really will be improved. So please participate a lot.
Great advice. And what I always tell everyone who's willing to listen is that no one anywhere in the world has ever gotten more out of their education than they have put into it. So it does require, some investment of motivation and enthusiasm. But yeah, great advice. Thank you, Dennis. Tech, last word to you.
I would say try to say yes to every invitation you get from local or close friends. It is a best opportunity to adapt quickly and also make friends and also practice English. Also learn about the local cultures or other cultures quickly. And next advice would be don't be afraid for challenges. It is okay if you fail, or whether it's okay if your English pronunciation is bad. I feel like the most important thing is your message. So if you can deliver your message, it is okay to be bad at first. So gradually you will slowly get better. And lastly, I would say not everyone is good at first. You will get better and better. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not be afraid to take risks. Nothing risked, nothing will be gained. So thank you. So now we'll go back to David and see, would you like to summarize what, it's been a very rich conversation with our two panelists, a lot to cover.
Yes, indeed. But it has been very meaningful and very informative, somehow very philosophical. And actually, I also majored in, theology and philosophy in graduate school. So kind of very touching to myself as well. So,
Yeah.
okay. Just the one motto I kept thinking of is that, quote by Paulo Coelho, be brave, take risks, nothing can substitute experience. So, okay, let me brief in Korean language again. 그 최우혁 선생님께서는 사실 이제 유학을 처음 시작하시게 된 건 미국 버팔로가 처음이었고, 그 전까지 이제 한국 교육 세팅에 계셨는데 이제 주로 이제 가장 큰 모티베이션은 해외의 교육 환경을 좀 경험해봐야 되겠다. 이제 한국의 어떤 엄격하고 이런 좀 뭔가 이렇게 좀 원웨이적인 그런 교육 환경을 좀 벗어나야 되겠다. 이런 동기가 컸고요. 김승택 학생분 같은 경우는 이제 좀 naturally he became, a third culture kid. 그러니까 좀 자연스럽게 국제 환경 하에 이제 노출이 되셨어요. 김승택 학생 같은 경우는. 자, 그래서 이제 좀 미국에 이제 공부를 하러 가셔서도 상당히 놀라셨던 거는 좀 겉보기에 좀 seemingly 좀 silly questions, but still 그 미국의 렉처러 분들은 그 안에서도 뭔가 인터랙티브하게 상호작용을 하면서 뭔가 좀 교훈을 이끌어내는 그런 부분에서 이제 많은 놀라움이 있으셨고, 이제 또 우리 그 김승택 학생분 같은 경우에는 이제 그 한국에서는 좀 단순 암기적인 교육 환경에 있다가 이제 해외 교육에 나오니까 이제 프로젝트 중심의 또 뭔가 이제 좀 문화적인 다양함 속에서 좀 그런 걸 경험을 하신 거죠. 자, 그래서 유학 경험이 어떻게 좀 전반적으로 이 두 분한테 도움이 됐는가? 먼저 이제 이 데니스 선생님한테는 사실 한국에서는 내가 감사할 수 없고 뭐 something that he took it for granted 뭐 이런 부분들을 해외 나가서는 이게 참 얼마나 소중했는가. 다양한 환경 속에서 내가 나를 알아가는 뭐 하다못해 이런 자그마한 파티 경험을 통해서도 이런 부분을 속에서 이제 자기가 알아가는 여정이었다라는 거죠. 그런데 이제 우리 김승택 학생분 같은 경우는 해외 유학 생활을 하면서 셀프 컨피던스, 자신감을 키워가고 또 뭔가 이제 환경 적응력에 대한 이런 부분을 내가 좀 발달시킬 수 있었다. 이런 말씀들을 또 주셨어요. 근데 이제 당연히 두 분에게도 어려움이 있었습니다. 가장 큰 어려움은 이제 그 데니스 선생님 같은 경우에는 이제 버팔로에 very cold weather at first, 아주 추운 날씨. 그다음에 이제 랭귀지 배리어가 당연히 있었죠. 근데 또 한 가지 재밌었던 부분은 some kind of culture between professors and students. 그러니까 한국의 대학교에서는 교수님들과 학생들이 약간 좀 거리감도 있고 막 이런데 미국에서는 their relationship is very close. This is kind of very cultural shock to Dennis. 그러니까 이런 부분이 좀 어려움이었어요. 그런데 이제 우리 이제 김승택 학생 같은 경우에는 이제는 랭귀지 배리어, 그다음에 이제 사실은 또 날씨 이런 부분들이 좀 힘들었지만 지금은 완전히 이제 서머 키드가 되신 거죠. 이제 이렇게 되셨고 이제 한국에 있는 학생들에게 이제 싱가포르 추천을 좀 해달라라는 이 질문에서 이 김승택 학생분께서는 이제 싱가포르이 참 K-컬처, 어떤 뭐 K-드라마 이런 부분이 아주 좀 유행이기 때문에 좀 쉽게 어댑트할 수 있다. 상당히 좋은 환경이다. 그리고 이제 또 영어와 중국어, English, Chinese를 같이 배울 수 있는 bilingual environment가 이제 recommended by 승택 그 추천이었고, 또 이제 또 요새 now these days are pandemic, right? So 싱가포르가 상당히 safer, very safer than other countries 이런 부분 추천이 있었고, 데니스 선생님께서는 특히 이제 Dr. Kevin께서 이제 specifically questioning about GIS 프로그램과 international trade 이런 부분에 있어서 좀 추천을 해달라 하셨을 때 데니스 선생님께서는 사실 globalization is kind of inevitable, right? Especially for Korean students. 한국 학생들에게, Korea is also, we have no natural resources. Kind of international trade is kind of destiny of Korea, Republic of Korea and Korean student. 그렇기 때문에 이제 international trade가 참 우리한테 참 필요한 부분이고, 한국인이라면 참 배워야 될 그런 전공 분야 중에 하나다. 그다음에 이제 GIS에 있어서는 한국이 사실 많은 정부의 제약들이 있습니다. 이런 개인 퍼스널 데이터라든지 이런 그 프라이버시 같은 제약이 아직은 있지만 이젠 점점 더 이런 부분에 있어서 한국 마켓도 좀 디맨드가 많아지고 오프닝 될 거기 때문에 이 버팔로 프로그램의 GIS 전공을 하게 될 때에 미국에 있는 그 우버와 같은 그런 그 글로벌한 컴퍼니들과 또 경쟁할 수 있기 위해서는 참 이런 부분의 전공이 필요하고 또 유망하다. 이런 부분을 좀 포인트를 많이 강조해 주셨습니다. Lastly, final comment, advice from Dennis and Tech is that 마지막 그 어드바이스는 뭐였냐면 사실 이제 데니스 그 선생님께서 이제 success can be defined in a very different way. 그러니까 성공이라고 하는 건 굉장히 다르게 정의될 수 있는데 사실 성공은 행복이라고 보는 거죠. 뭐 좋은 직업을 갖고 뭐 가정을 가지고 이런 걸 수도 있지만 성공은 행복이고 success is happiness. 그런데 the first step to happiness is that die yourself, die yourself. Know yourself by Socrates or something. 그러니까 우리 자신을 아는 건데 우리 자신을 알기 위해서는 우리가 다양한 환경에 또 노출되고 경험을 하면서 what makes me happy, feel happy, and what makes me feel unhappy. 그러니까 나를 행복하게 만들고 불행하게 만드는 게 무엇인지를 내가 충분히 알아가는 그 전의를 통해서 내가 더욱더 내가 행복에 다가갈 수 있는 그런 여정에 유학이 참 그게 기여할 수 있다. 굉장히 미닝풀하고 필로소피를 하면서 아주 좋은 그런 모티베이션을 주신 거고요. 그 과정 속에서 데니스 선생님께서 one more advice is that just actively participate in the environment. 적극적으로 참여해달라 이런 조언을 주셨어요. 그리고 이제 마지막 그 김승택 학생에게서는 이제 좀 글로벌한 문화 이런 것들을 좀 적극적으로 체험을 하고 두 번째로는 don't be afraid of challenge for new environment. 도전을 두려워하지 말고 또 영어 랭귀지 배리어도 마찬가지. 내가 계속해서 도전해서 나를 표현할 수 있을 때 정말 더 가까워질 수 있다. 그리고 at first could be very difficult, but later gradually you will be better. So okay, Rome was not built in a day, right? So 계속 그 처음엔 어렵지만 점점 더 나아질 수 있으니 용기 내시라 이런 조언들이 있었습니다. So that's for all the brief in Korean language. Once again, thanks very much for Dr. Kevin and Dennis and Sungtaek as well. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank
So,
you.
Our
That really helps.
panelists.
You.
So maybe
Open the room now to Q&A. And then if they have any questions, they can type it in the Q&A section.
okay, sure, definitely.
And
Let me explain in Korean language to Korean audiences right now. 혹시 그 질문이 있으시거나 또 Dr. Kevin 또는 데니스 우리 승택 학생분에게 if you have any questions from our audience 질문 있으시면 채팅룸에 이렇게 좀 메시지를 남겨주시면 조이스랑 제가 좀 확인을 해서 내용을 전달드리겠습니다. Let's wait for a while, but as Dennis already mentioned, kind of Korean students and parents are, kind of a one way. They are more familiar with this style, so I just give some few seconds or 1 or 2 minutes to the audience to wait for some questions. 자. As we already discussed and expected, I don't think they.
there is a question.
Okay. Anonymous attendee. UB in SIM provide graduate program in Singapore.
Yeah, the answer is no. So currently we offer the bachelor's program, the undergraduate.
좀 아쉽지만 현재로서는 저희 버팔로 프로그램이 싱가포르에서 undergraduate program around 7 undergraduate programs only in Singapore. 현재 대학원 과정은 아직 제공이 되지 않고 있습니다.
But if you want to, let's say, if you start as an undergrad student in Singapore, but you can proceed to grad school back to America.
Yeah.
So I think that's not a really problem right now.
한국에서 그 언더그래주에이트 과정을 그 이제 고민을 하신다면 싱가포르 버팔로에서 이제 학부 과정 진행을 하시고 그 뉴욕 그 버팔로 메인 캠퍼스에서 그레주어트 그 프로그램을 계속 진행하실 수 있다고 합니다. 방금 데니스 선생님께서 설명해 주셨어요.
Actually, at least I know like 2 students who did that, like even only in my department.
Okay.
So if you need any advice for that one, I think I can kind of like ask them again.
Yeah, actually, it's that department is a relatively small one, but we've had other students. Our two largest programs are psychology and communication. And over the years, we've had lots of students who have gone from our undergraduate program here to graduate programs in the United States at the home campus. They can go to other places too. However, one of the advantages of coming here to Singapore is that students will see the professors, visiting faculty here in Singapore. They can meet them, they can get to know them, and find out what their research interests are and so on. And then if they decide that they want to apply to graduate programs in the United States, they already have somebody, a connection, who can help them with funding. We've had a number of students who have gotten scholarships, even up to the doctoral level, to study at the US. So having that sort of original connection here in Singapore is very, very helpful.
Oh, great. Dr. Kevin, thanks for the great point, mentioning the great point. 지금 싱가포르 SIM에서는 사실 이제 사이콜로지랑 커뮤니케이션이 사실 굉장히 좀 큰 규모의 전공인데 사실 이 비지팅 패컬티 분들께서 싱가포르에서 티칭을 하시면서 여러분들의 이제 인트레스트 필드를 발견하시고 또 이제 그 가이드를 받으셔서 이제 그 커넥션, 이제 그 메인 캠퍼스에 있는 관련된 분야의 또 펀딩이라든지 레코멘데이션 이런 부분에 이제 그 네트워킹과 커넥션 부분에서도 충분히 도움을 받으실 수 있다라고 하는 부분을 강조해 주셨습니다.
And I think if I can add one more, I think also you can think about going to grad school in Singapore. That's also possible. And as Kevin said, like the professors coming to like visiting Singapore to teach, they have like extensive networks. So they can like write a letter for you, or also can introduce somebody else who can kind of introduce the program, whatever. So I think there's like so many opportunities for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, let me also add another advantage of having this kind of transnational program. So we have our visiting faculty who come from Buffalo to Singapore. And so that's great for establishing connections both to the home campus and really internationally. Since, you know, we're a major world-class research university, our faculty members travel all over the globe to international conferences and so on. So they are very, very well connected. But for people who are keen actually to stay in Singapore, another great asset is our local instructors. So many of them who are based here in Singapore have very, very close connections with Singapore industry and Singapore professional organizations, research operations, and so on. All of that is another advantage. So you're really getting sort of two things in one. When you come to study in this program, you get the US faculty who are coming from the United States, all of those connections, and on top of that, all of the local connections within Singapore. So it's really, really very, very rich.
Yeah, yes, it is. In the meantime, we have two additional more questions from the chat group. Okay, let me brief what Dr. Kevin said. 지금 그 UB의 visiting faculty가 이제 싱가포르 오게 되면서 사실 이분들은 그 아카데믹 그 리서치 유니버시티의 이제 패컬티 멤버이기 때문에 정말 그 뭐 인터내셔널 뭐 세미나 워크숍 이런 걸 통해서 사실 아주 그 인터내셔널한 그런 네트워킹을 구축할 수 있는 좋은 기회가 된다라고 말씀하셨고요. 또한 이 UB의 이제 로컬 렉처러들 또한 이 싱가포르 어떤 인더스트리라든지 이런 필드에 굉장히 다양한 이런 네트워킹이 있어서 사실 US, Singapore, and not just for two countries, very internationally 네트워킹을 구축할 수 있는 장점이 있다고 강조해 주셨습니다. 자, the second question is that is it the same tuition fee for online courses?
Yes. So in fact, I mean, we began as a face-to-face program, an in-person program entirely. And so we were forced by circumstances during COVID-19 to change to online delivery. We're doing some of our courses face-to-face and some online, depending on the class size. So according to Singapore regulations, you can't have more than 49 students in a classroom at one time. So any of our small classes, we are offering in an in-person format. Any of the larger lecture classes would be online, but it's still the same price. And I would add that we really are trying very, very hard to make sure that students still get the same sort of active engagement through their online classes that they do if they were in person. In some ways, the online classes are even more interactive now because even within a classroom, you have to apply social distancing measures. Students can't work together in groups. They are separated out. So, so the online classes have offered an exceptionally better than expected opportunity for online collaboration, which is, nowadays, that's a really, really good skill to be able to develop and have. You'll definitely be needing this for some time to come.
Yes, Kevin.
So no, there's no differential in the cost, but just keep in mind that this was designed and it will return to at some point a fully face-to-face program. And in the meantime, we are doing the best we can. In many of the purpose-built online programs, you don't get any interaction whatsoever. But we are still providing exactly that. The instructors are live in Zoom, so they are. It's a mediated form of instruction. It hasn't been converted to something like you would sort of associate with a purpose-built online program.
Yes, thanks, Kevin, for the valid points. Really,
they have economies of scale which can make them much less expensive, but you also lose out on a tremendous amount of what we do in our actual instruction.
Yes, thanks, Kevin. Thanks for the very valid, and very good point. So, 학비는 비슷하고요. 근데 이제 충분히 내용은 전달 받으셨을 거라 생각이 됩니다. 좀 시간 관계상, the next move on, I will move on to the next question. What about the, job opportunity, rate of getting a job positions for our UB graduate? So in the previous presentation, you briefly mentioned it was around 77% for public sectors and private sectors. Is it general rate for UB graduate, right? Regardless of whether they are Singaporeans or internationals or Koreans?
Yeah, okay. So that's a very good question. And the way we get this information is 6 months after graduation, we will send out a survey and we ask our graduates to inform us, what are you doing now? And have you found a job? And if so, what is your job? Or is it your first job, your second job, your third job? So this is the information that is reported back to us by our graduates 6 months after they graduate. And so actually, if you compare with other institutions in Singapore, that's a very, very good number. 78 or so % of our students within 6 months are finding jobs. Now, you have to also recognize that it depends on the response rate, how many students are going to respond, and all of these other things. But what I could say, I'm quite confident that our students come out of our program with excellent skills, excellent skills. And we hear from our graduates about how they go to interviews. They feel very confident. They're able to speak very well. They are not shy. They are confident in expressing their views because they've had much practice during the time. They've given many presentations over their time that they are studying in Buffalo. So this gives them an advantage over people who come from more traditional programs where you're just sitting very passively, and it may be the first time in your life that you're actually, when you go to an interview, now you have to speak up and present yourself.
Yeah, understood. Great.
Yeah, so that's what I would look at. We haven't heard, for example, of students not being able, on account of getting a UB degree, being unable to get jobs within government agencies and so on. Sometimes the public sector can be a little, let's say, elitist when it comes to the places they select their new employees from. But I think it's just our students are incredibly competitive when they get out into the job market.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay.
So, sorry, can I also add something a little bit about the job market?
Sure.
Oh yeah, so I think especially because I'm Korean, I think I know more context of the situation in Korea, and I definitely understand that like finding a job would be like one of the priorities after you graduate, and that's like completely understandable. And I think for Korean students in Singapore, it really depends on where you want to work afterwards. But as a Korean, I would say finding a job is way easier in Singapore than America, honestly, because Singapore is like really well like opened to foreigners, and I already know a lot of Koreans like who are working in Singapore, even like who started their career there or just like spent some time in Korea and then like scouted by a Singaporean firm, whatever. There are so many cases. But I think maybe just like one practical thing you should keep in mind if you are worried about your job is so because the UB program might be like 3 semesters, like fall and spring semester as usual, but we also have summer semesters. So sometimes it can be hard for you to like do an internship or like do some other like extracurricular things. Maybe that can be a little bit of problem. But I think if you're aware of that fact, I think you can be prepared like when you start your program. So I think you don't need to worry like that much. That's my opinion. And this is what I heard from actual UB SIM graduates.
Okay, great. Thanks for additional advice from Dennis. Okay, Kevin. Yeah.
One more point.
Yeah.
What are the 3 most important things when it comes to finding a job? Networking, networking, and networking. It's really, really important. So
yes, indeed.
I would just advise people, don't wait until you graduate to start your search. So a couple of things to point out as far as advantages we have here in Singapore. One is SIM has its own in-house it's called Career Connect. So SIM has a very rich set of connections with industries throughout Singapore. So if you were looking for a job in Singapore, you have a wealth of connections just waiting there. You just walk into the office and they will help you make connections. And they have lots and lots of them. The second one, as I mentioned earlier, our own faculty. The people, I'm just thinking of tech in your case, you're a comm major, correct?
Yes.
So you have courses with Ray Monteverde?
No.
Not yet. Okay, you will. Ray Monteverde is one of our comm professors. This is just one example, and he teaches advanced level courses in advertising and public relations. And the students, their senior level project work, they basically come out with a portfolio of work which they can take with them. And Ray Monteverde has connections throughout Singapore. He knows everyone in the PR and the advertising industry. And the work that these kids do is absolutely stunning professional quality work. So this is the kind of thing that people are doing in our program, which just facilitates through their actual curricular work that they do, the projects and all of this, and then the connections that they have with the professors who are teaching in the various disciplines to real life organizations here in Singapore.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. So okay, we have 2 more questions. One is regarding scholarship program, and the other thing is that, what about the English competency capability? If I fail to pass any certain modules or subject, should I retake it as a whole semester or something like that? So before that, let me just briefly summarize what Dennis and Dr. Kevin mentioned. 저희가 6개월이 지나고 나서 이제 저희가 졸업생들에게 서베이를 보내서요. 지금 뭐 첫 직장에 있습니까? 어디에 있습니까? 이런 조사를 했을 때 대략적으로 한 78% 정도의 그 재학생들이 취업을 하고 있는데 다른 사설교육기관에 비교했을 때 상당히 높은 수치입니다. 그 대표적인 이유는 이제 학생들의 스킬, 특히 이제 이 인터뷰에서 이 학생들이 자신 있게 자기를 표현하고 말하는 이런 부분에 있어서 저희 버팔로 졸업생들이 상당히 탁월한 그런 스킬을 가지고 있고요. 그다음에 이제 이 데니스 선생님께서도 사실 이 미국과 비교했을 때 이 싱가포르이 사실 외국인으로 취업을 하는 확률이 더 많이 오픈되어 있고 사실 또 물론 이제 어떤 분야의 일을 하고 취업을 하느냐에 따라 좀 달라질 수는 있겠지만 좀 제너럴하게 봤을 때 이제 싱가포르의 취업 환경이 훨씬 더 좀 유리하다 이런 말씀을 해주셨고 또 다시 한번 그 닥터 케빈께서 정말 그 three very most important thing to getting a job is that number one is network, number two is network, number three is also network. 그러니까 그 저희 학교에 있는 그 커리어 커넥트 디파트먼트 부서를 통해서 또 링킹을 하셔야 되고 또 패컬티 이런 그 멤버들을 통해서 계속 그 잡서칭의 기회를 자꾸 만드셔야 되고 또 이제 학교 생활을 하시면서 지속적으로 졸업한 뒤에 내가 잡을 찾겠다가 아니라 재학 생활 중에 계속 네트워킹을 통해서 잡을 찾으셔야 된다. 이제 이런 그 포인트들이 나왔습니다. 자, now let's move on to about the scholarship program for especially for international students. Dr. Kevin, would you introduce or some of the scholarship opportunities, not just from SG campus or New York campus as well, if possible?
Okay, so we don't have anything specific within the UB program for any incoming students, just for us, for our program. Maybe Joyce could share about scholarships that are available from SIMGE, however.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, sure. So to share about the scholarship programs, there are two types of scholarship programs. One would be the diploma scholarships, which would be the diploma itself is kind of equivalent to the first year of the bachelor's.
Yes.
So incoming students, after completing the diploma, they can actually move on to the UB program from year 2 because they would get some exemptions. And for the diploma program, there is a scholarship option available. Other than that, there is another kind of scholarship, which is called the SIMGE scholarship. This would be open to the UB programs as well. So students who are keen to apply, they can apply accordingly. They should apply to the UB program first and then follow up with the scholarship application. Yeah.
Okay. Basically 저희가 그 디플로마 장학금, 그러니까 버팔로에서 특별히 따로 제공하는 장학금은 없지만 저희 SIM 디플로마 장학금이 있고요. 또 이제 SIMGE 장학금이라고 해서 이제 일종의 학부생들, 재학 중인 학생들에게 또 지원을 받아서 수여하는 장학금이 있는데요. Specifically for scholarship part, we can provide individual consultation. Okay? So 저희가 이 스칼러십 관련해서는 저희가 개별 individual consultation 세션에서 자세히 또 한번 안내를 드리겠습니다. 참가해 주시면 감사할 거고요. Now it seems the last question from our audience.
Can I add
yeah, sure.
one more thing about the scholarship? So we do have one scholarship that we offer for UB bound. That's for a student who's in the UB program who wants to study for a semester at the home campus. And for that, we will select one student, merit-based, looking for somebody who would be a good representative of our program as a kind of a student ambassador, and we will pay full tuition plus housing plus transportation from Singapore to Buffalo for one semester.
Wow.
Competitive, but it's a really wonderful opportunity for one student to go every spring and every fall.
Wow. 저희가 그 디플로마 장학금과 GE 장학금 외에 저희 아까 이제 그 UB 바운드 프로그램 있었다고 저희가 설명을 드렸었는데요. 이제 그 한 세메스터 한 학기마다 이제 그 메리트 베이스로 이제 쉽게 생각하면 성적 우수 학생분들을 저희가 이제 선발을 해서 저희 프로그램을 잘 이렇게 represent 좀 앰베서더처럼 잘 대변할 수 있는 학생을 뽑아서 뭐 하우징, 또 튜이션 피 뭐 이런 부분들을 전부 저희가 풀로 지원을 해드리는 UB 바운드 장학금이 있다고 합니다. 그래서 나중에 이제 이거는 저희 UB 버팔로 프로그램 재학생분들에게 해당되는 장학금일 것 같습니다. 자, 그러면 what about the English competency? How can I say? You know, if a student fail to pass a certain subject or a module, should this student retake the whole semester or just the subject basis?
Okay, I can answer that. That's a very good question. So every semester, students will have, depending on how many transfer credits they enter with and other factors, typically 4 or maybe 5, sometimes only 3 different modules. And each module you will receive at the end of the semester a grade, a final grade, which could range from F for a failure all the way to an A for excellent. And if you fail a course, you will earn no credits for it. So you will have to retake it. You can retake it a second time for a better grade, but you don't have to retake any of the other courses you took during that semester. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, you came in as a business administration student and you really struggled with accounting in the first semester and you failed that. But you passed your marketing course, you passed your finance course, you passed your this and that, then that's fine. You just have to retake that accounting course. And we will
Okay.
always, in terms of your GPA, grade point average, if you take it a second time, the first attempt will disappear. It will still be listed on your transcript, but it will not be calculated in your GPA. So a lot of times students will retake a course a second time if they don't do well the first time.
음.
Maybe not even necessarily if they don't even fail it, but if they just want to increase their GPA, they have the
아,
opportunity to take a second time
아.
to get a better grade if they want to.
Wow, that's a very good, good information. 기본적으로 이제 한 학기에 뭐 4-5 모듈에서 뭐 3모듈 정도 이렇게 수업을 듣게 되는데요. 이제 F 그레이드에서 A 그레이드까지 이제 그 학기 말에 채점이 되는데, 만약에 이제 F를 하셔서 페일을 하시면 이제 재수강을 하시죠. 재수강을 하시는데 한 학기 전체를 다 하는 게 아니라 그 실패한 그 과목만 다시 수업을 신청을 해서 하시면 되고요. 그 과목을 재수강하는 그 학기에는 다른 과목들이 포함될 수 있는 거겠죠. 이렇게 되는 거고, 그다음에 이제 재수강을 했을 때 나온 그 그레이드는 이제 그게 이제 갱신이 되는 겁니다. 전에 있었던 학점이 사라지고 갱신이 되는 거고, 때로는 꼭 F 학점이 아니더라도 내가 이제 학점이 처음 시도한 학점이 마음에 안 든다. 그러면 그것 때문에라도 재수강을 하는 그런 학생들도 케이스가 있다. 이제 이렇게 설명을 들었습니다. So looks like Joyce, no more questions, right? That's it.
There is actually another question that I have answered by typing, but I'll just read out the question if Dr. Kevin and the rest of the panelists have anything that they can add on. So the student was asking about online courses. Do online courses offer the same curriculum as the campus lectures? And how can students have team projects or discussions?
Yes, it's a great question. And I would say that we have made absolutely every effort across the board with our courses. When we need to switch them to online courses, we try to retain as much as possible the same things that people would do as if they were face to face, but only in an online format. And I would have to be honest. I mean, sometimes there are certain things which it's very difficult to transform like that. But I think our instructors have been very creative. Our students actually have been incredibly helpful in also coming up with ways where they can engage in online collaboration. I mean, the reality is we're all living in a world now where so much of what we do is through these kind of mediated formats, just as we're doing right now. And so I think the feedback that I have gotten is that there is not really a major loss, that you're still managing to carry on. Now, it's true. People miss their classmates and their friends. We would like to be able to go back to campus, and just the aspect of university study. I mean, we learn so much just from having lunch with our colleagues and talking, what did you learn about in this class today or that class? What about current events? All of the different things that you talk to in the hallway or in the dining hall and so on. We miss that. We really, really do miss that. But in terms of curriculum and academic content, I don't think that there has been a major loss.
Okay.
In some cases, there has been a gain, because the power of the internet, when you introduce it into classes. I'll give you a concrete example. So this semester we have a course in and maybe Tech is familiar with this one, there was a course in intercultural communication. And were you in that, Tech? So previously, you would have the students in a room on campus in Singapore, which is really nice, but it was limited to that. This semester, the instructor of that course was able to, through the internet, involve students taking a similar course. Maybe you can remind me, but was it in some place like Croatia or somewhere far away, where it introduced an entirely new angle and element to the study that would never have existed if it had not been for COVID-19 and shifting the class to online. So that's just one example of how people are finding creative ways to make this work. And I would say, as far as online project collaboration, it's fine. People have been doing online projects, and doing them is actually, I would argue, a very, very valid and useful skill, since anybody working in a multinational corporation in the future is going to, even without the pandemic, be working in virtual work groups. This is normal in the modern world. Tech, is there anything you'd like to share about your own experience with taking some of the online courses and doing different projects with your classmates virtually?
I think virtually is not so different from offline, because for team projects and a discussion, you usually do it on Google Docs or like WhatsApp group, or let's say, for example, Koreans use KakaoTalk. So we usually use group chats to discuss and write on Google Docs. So nothing hasn't changed much. It's basically the same.
I guess you get to, if you want, you can wear your pajamas, which you can do at home. That's something that a lot of people enjoy about virtual collaboration, if they don't have to get up and take transportation to school and so on. But yeah, I think that people have made the best of this. Quite frankly, I am very, very proud of our instructors and our students in our program for taking, what is an unfortunate situation and really making the best of it and just carrying on. And there's no reason to stop. Some people, in fact, I would say it's a good question that people might ask around the world. Should I delay going to university? Is it worth taking a year off or something and wait? And that's an individual question that people might ask of themselves. There could be reasons why one would want to do that. But really, we have found that people can just continue making progress and working towards their degree, and with not a great loss, and in some cases with a gain in terms of what you can do. Actually, it would be good if we want to ask Dennis, since Dennis was teaching online classes. What's been your experience?
For me, interestingly, it was way better than I expected, because I thought, because like we're not like in the same classroom, I thought we will not have a lot of interactions and like do not really talk a lot. But I was surprised that when students use the chat, they're really active. It's kind of like more comfortable for them to participate than like actually speaking. So personally, I prefer in-person classes, but I think online classes are not necessarily like inferior or something to offline classes. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's very common feedback that I've heard from other instructors too, is that students before the pandemic who were very, very shy and found it very difficult to participate in class because they were too embarrassed to speak in front of their classmates, they're very comfortable participating online. So it's, in some ways, it's advantageous for certain types of students. But I agree with Dennis. We will all be happy when we can get back to sort of more normal face-to-face instruction.
Definitely.
Okay. Thanks for the great tips and experience and advice. So now it seems we have no more questions from our audience, and maybe slowly we will need to wrap up the session. And okay, let me just briefly talk in Korean. 혹시 인디비주얼 컨설테이션 원하시는 분들은 저희가 지금 드린 줌 링크로 다시 한번 참여를 해주시면 감사하겠습니다. 또 참석해주신 분들께 대단히 감사드리고요. 저희 또 오늘 함께 해주신 또 데니스 선생님, 또 닥터 케빈, 그리고 김승택 학생 모두에게 또 정말 감사를 드립니다. Once again, Dr. Kevin and Dennis and Sungtaek, thanks so much for your precious time and contribution to this session. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I hope to see everyone in
Thank you.
Singapore.
My pleasure.
Look
Nice.
forward to seeing you guys all again in SIM campus.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much
Yep.
to our
See you later.
panelists. Thank you for making the session so meaningful and fruitful. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
now we have a personal consultation session for those who are interested to find out more in terms of your qualifications, whether you're eligible or not. You can actually leave this room and join us at another meeting room. I've put the link into the chat, so I hope all of you can see it. So do join us if you have further questions, and also to feel free to add David on his Kakao ID.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye bye. 감사합니다.
Bye.
데니스 선생님, 승택 학생분 고맙습니다. Dr. Kevin
네.
감사합니다. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
또 카톡 드릴게요. 감사합니다. Joyce, can I still open the separate link, right?
You can try, but I think it might, it will ask you to leave this current room.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So I have to
let me
leave.
first. I will leave first, and in case the participants still require the link,
Okay,
so
sure,
I'll
sure.
be there first.
Okay, sure.
I'll see you
Let me
later.
stay here first.
Yeah, just stay for a while. Okay,
Okay,
see you.
sure. See you.
Bye.
안녕하세요, 최상호님. Hello, Koti, Formula. We will have a separate individual consultation session. You can check the link in a chat room. 박신재님 수고하셨습니다. 감사합니다.